All right. Welcome to the Memberverse podcast, where we interview people making a real impact on the growth of the fitness industry. I'm your host, Dave Pancham, the CEO of Go Pancham, your fitness marketing agency for freeing up your time and increasing your bottom line. Today, we have one of our top clients, Bethany McVay, the owner of Burn Boot Camp Layton in Utah, who recently finished #1 in sales out of roughly 300 gyms within the Burn Boot Camp franchise in their fall promotion. If I'm correct, it was about 221 sales over a 6-week period. In fact, she had so many sales that she beat the #2 location in the franchise by about 30 sales. So she consistently ranks in the top gyms in the franchise when any of their promotions, and it runs one of the most engaging Instagrams that I've seen in the fitness industry, period, which I believe is one of the key reasons or a crucial part of your success. So Bethany, thanks for hopping on today. To kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about your origin story, came to becoming a gym owner, a Burn Boot Camp owner?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. My name is Bethany McVay. I am married to an Air Force pilot, and we have lived all over the world, moving a lot. And we were stationed in Las Vegas, Nevada, which is where I became a member. Another military spouse took me to Burn with her, and I had been a member for a while. And I knew I had also been a stay-at-home mom at that point for about, 3 or 4 years. But prior to that, with our moving, I had kind of left my career, and I knew eventually I wanted to get back into my career field. And surprisingly enough, I went to school to be a political campaign manager and
Oh,
became a became a gym owner. But what got me there was I had severe postpartum depression with my second child, and that was around the time that I had been introduced to Burn. And I thought I would go back into the political realm and do some kind of advocating for postpartum. And I looked around during a workout one day and I said, this is what women need. And this is how I can support women who are postpartum, and decided to look into it. We knew our next assignment was going to be in Layton, Utah. So we contacted headquarters and they told me it was available, and we went from there. And that was November of 2020. So it was a bit of a risk, I guess, coming out of COVID, being a first time business owner. At the time, I was kind of becoming a jack of all trades in a little bit, in a sense, because I had started a graphic design company that I was doing while my children were napping. And I used that to fund me being able to open Layton. So that got me where I am.
I love it. I had no idea that you had this political campaign history like that was going on back there for you. And where did the graphic design skills come from? Is that something from school? Did you develop that when in your political career?
No, it's totally self-taught. Everything I feel lined up in this odd way. Being a military spouse was such a huge part of my identity at the time. We moved. My husband says I always add a year. 7 moves in 8 years, and
Holy cow.
with that, I've always been an ambitious person. I've always been a person that wanted more and wanted to do stuff. So I became very involved in the military spouse community, and the way his work is, I joke that it's like a fraternity, and we have mottos and we have colors, and so we were wearing apparel to represent our squadrons to events and to social gatherings, and I didn't feel they were cute enough, and so I started making what I wanted. And then I had other spouses start contacting me to make them for their squadrons, and then I said, hey, I should do this. And so I started a website and started doing it, and yeah, it was fun.
So you kind of already had that entrepreneurial bug in you there, you know?
I did. I didn't realize it. I didn't really know what it was because I thought this is just something I've kind of stumbled upon, and it truly was. We did shirts for an air show, and I had recently moved to Vegas and found a screen printing shop, and I walked in to get them, and the vibe was just so great. If you're ever looking for a screen printer, here's a plug. It's a live print shop in Las Vegas. The owner is Austin Boyd. he's probably the most generous person I've ever met in my life. And at the time I was searching, and coincidentally, we went to a sushi restaurant the next day, and him and his wife were there. And I was like, no way. This is so odd. And it wasn't in an area we live. So I don't know, it just felt right. And so that following Monday, I called him and told him I wanted a job. And he asked me what I could do. And I told him that I felt like his social media was lacking and that I felt I could help get it back on track. And I was just so honest with him. And I said, listen, I got to shoot straight with you and tell you I'm not very reliable because my husband is always gone. He works 12 to 15-hour days. And I have these 2 tiny little kids at home. And if they're sick, like I have to be home, or if I don't have childcare. And he said, my wife's in the exact same position. We can totally work with your schedule. You can come in a couple days a week and get content and then work from home. And he just let me do that. And it was so fun. I got to watch the screen printing process. I got to watch the design process. I got to stand on top of the big screen printing machines and video everybody and so that was actually my introduction into managing social media. And then COVID hit, and I just went to him and said, like, obviously I'm the first person to go, like, I need to stay home anyway, like, but that was my introduction to both of these things that I started doing. And again, just him opening that door for me and being understanding of where I was in my life. And then that turned into, when I was doing these designs, I was using his business to print the designs. And so he really guided me along that way, and also showed me what it was like to be an entrepreneur.
So did you have like some sort of social, because it sounds like you called him out, like, your social media is not too good and I can do something better with it. Where was your knowledge base at that point in time walking into that?
My knowledge base was, I'm a millennial that grew up alongside technology, and I could just recognize it. That was it. That was the extent of my knowledge base.
You just saw enough stuff. You're like, I could do this. I can go figure this out.
Yes.
Right. Which clearly you have the figure it out factor.
I do. I just went in and said, let's try this.
And so what were the early days like for you as a gym owner? I mean, first off, it sounds like you opened the gym a little bit before COVID, right? COVID hit right after you actually opened, but you haven't worked in years. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, do I have the timelines right there?
Yeah, no, it's backwards. COVID hit, and 2020 was when I signed my franchise agreement with Burn Boot Camp.
Okay, so makes it even more exciting here, right? So you're opening a gym in the midst of COVID. You haven't worked in years. You've been a mom for the past few years. You have 2 kids at home. First-time business owner. Talk to me about what that was like, and the mental part of it, the challenges that you had in the early days. Please expand there.
I would describe myself as determined, in the sense of, when I make my mind up, it's probably not going to change. And so I look back on things and I'm like, man, how did I do that? But when I'm in it, I'm not thinking about any of that. And so it was just something I had decided to do. My family was incredibly supportive. And my husband actually had to stay in Las Vegas. We moved here. We didn't have to move here, but I felt like I should be here for the grand opening. So I moved here with my 2 kids and our 2 dogs in October of 2021. The gym's grand opening was January 31st of 2022, and my husband moved here in March of 2022. So we just hit the ground running, and I just figured it out as I went. I'm a person that feels like knowledge is power. And in the sense of, it gives me comfort. The more that I know, the more that I can know, the more that I can learn from other people, makes me feel comfortable in making my decisions. So as soon as I got that FDD from Burn Boot Camp headquarters, I flipped to the back of it, and there are all of the other franchise partners' names and phone numbers listed. And I picked up the phone and just started calling every single one of them. To pick their brains and learn. And then once I decided to sign, I just went continued doing that, continued just reaching out. A well-known name in Burn Boot Camp is Ted and Chelsea Theodoropoulos. They're very influential franchise partners. He has become a mentor of mine, and I messaged him on Facebook Messenger. I actually, there's a call option on there now. I would just call him on Facebook Messenger because I didn't have his number. And finally, he was like, "Hey, Bethany, I'll just give you my number." So I'm just persistent is kind of how I feel about it. And the challenges were there, but sometimes I don't realize what they are until I've tackled them. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, that was hard.
I love it. Sheer persistence the whole way through, and also a lot of preparation, like pulling every resource possible. And now you have a gym that seems like it does decently well. Can you describe, tell us about your burn? I mean, I think anybody that's listening, if you haven't looked at Bethany's Burn Boot Camp Layton's Instagram, I would suggest you check it out because it'll give you a good feeling of what's going on there. But can you describe what you've built, the community that you have there, the everything that you possibly can put into words, I guess you'd say, about your gym?
So, like I said, I wanted to open the gym to help other women. So ultimately, my personal mission is to empower women to do something they otherwise would not be able to do. I really get joy from facilitating other people to do something that they otherwise would not have done had I not encouraged them to do it or given them a pathway to do it. So I really hang on to that in all of our decisions. With the gym, at the core, that's who we are. We are, my audience and my clientele are women who are living a very similar life as myself. Women who have had children, women who have, who need that support system, who have made friends at the gym. And that is what our central focus is to really embody that culture and encourage that culture among everybody who walks in the door.
Yeah. And your gym does quite well. And, now taking it into the social media aspect, because I think you just do a brilliant job of social media. Can you kind of walk us through like what is your Instagram strategy like for your location? Like how do you approach creating content? How do you approach your overall strategy? And I'm also doing this from a perspective like how can somebody that's listening pull some things away from this that because personally I think what you do dramatically impacts the performance of what we do, advertising, getting people in the door, people becoming leads and everything like that. So can you just kind of give us what is your general strategy if you could find a way to put that into words?
Yeah, I definitely see a direct correlation in my social media engagement and my leads, which I've shared with you before. I can tell when I'm going to have a slow week with leads when I can already see my social media lacking. But I like to think of my content from an audience perspective. I like to ask the question when I'm creating content, who is this content for? It's going to be for typically one of three people. My current member, someone who's already there that I want to engage, an interested person who knows what Burn Boot Camp is but has not come in yet, or maybe has come in but is not a member yet, or someone who has no clue what Burn Boot Camp is. So first I have to define who I'm targeting in the messaging. Which one of those people is it going to be? Regardless, that person is going to be a similar person in the sense of my target clientele. Most likely a mom with young kids, or a mom who has had young kids in the past or is going to have it's going to be that same type of person, generally speaking. And then from there, I like to then ask the question, what is my goal to achieve next? Am I providing entertainment? Should this be funny? That's going to be my engaging factor. And that's typically going to be towards someone who's already a member. Am I providing education? And that's going to be threefold of all three audiences, where if it's already a member, sometimes we'll do like a trainer tip or something that a member needs to know that's already in the gym, or educating them on what we do, or something that is going to kind of trigger their brain to say, I need that. They're educated on why we do what we do. Or am I explaining our product or service? So 3 different audiences and then 3 different messages and then pair them together. I like to ask, like, who do I want from the lens? Is this person sitting on their couch? What are they looking at? Does it look like, from the entertainment perspective, we're having fun? Is it worth getting up? Are they going to get up and go to the gym and it be miserable? Or are they going to get up and go to the gym and say, this was a good time? It creates a little bit of FOMO. And then the education piece of, I want this person to know why they should come to this gym, why it's important that they choose this gym, not only over another gym, but just that they choose to leave their house and go to a gym. And then what we do, what sets us apart, what makes us different, which I truly think for us, for me, I think part of it comes easy because I'm talking to myself. I can look at my needs. What did I need when I was in that position? What do I need right now? What am I going to need 5 years from now? And I can answer that question and then show people what the answer is.
How do you figure out how to, divide up like all of that content? Like, how often should you be doing stuff that speaks towards your members, speaks towards, potential prospects? Like, how do you figure out that split?
Honestly, just a little natural, organic, what comes to me. Sometimes it is a lot easier. My mind just goes to, it's easier to show who we are and what we're doing. I really enjoy using our members, and our members hop on board with it. They have fun with it. I will ask them to say something and do a voiceover for me or something like that. I also try, it's kind of a balance of, I try not to worry about timing too much, but I also have found with my engagement, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I get the highest engagement. Thursday and Friday, people drop off a little bit. Saturday, crickets. Sunday, we have a standard post that we post with our protocol, so I don't worry about Sunday content usually. And the way we've divided it with the team is we call them Burn Ambassadors, but they're the people who work at the front desk. My BAs do all my stories, and I do all of the grid posts. So all of the reels, anything that's going to stay on the, and then I have a couple people that are approved to do grid posts as well. Otherwise they come to me, or they can send them. Yes, approved. Yes. I also, I think quality, your social media. So we at Burn Boot Camp, we have something called the blue carpet checklist. And this is how we want to, the experience we want to give a client. And we frequently say from the second they open their car door to the second they close their car door to leave again. And what I have for my own perspective and for my team is, it's not from the second they open their car door. It's from the second they open our social media. That is our first impression. What our page looks like is our first impression. If it looks clean, if it looks happy, if it looks organized, everything they see right there is going to set their expectation. And so then we have to match it when they get in the gym. So I want our messaging to match, but I also want them to be so enticed by the look that it's already made a good first impression and set us up for success before they even get to the parking lot.
Absolutely love that. You're taking a full extension on things. And I'm sure you've seen too, like Instagram gives you a notification sometimes when you get a follower. It's like, this follower came from your ad, right? And so you know that these things are all working together in this ecosystem. How is some of that translated in the gym? Like with a new prospect, I'm sure you hear it all the time that people say like, oh, I've been following you on social media. But what are some of those things that people have said to you about what they've seen online?
A couple different things, and this is one reason I'll do a plug for Dave right now, that I tell everyone I know, this is why I use him for advertising. It's not the only reason, but one of the reasons. Early on, I didn't have my own content, so we were using content from other gyms. And we would have people come in that they had anxiety. It's a big deal for some people to step inside the gym for the very first time. And they come in and it doesn't look like what they saw online and they don't want to stay. We had feedback from that. So immediately I called Dave and I said, can we only use my content? And he said, yeah, but you got to get it to me. So then I spent time making sure to get quality content for him to be able to show my gym so people felt comfortable seeing that. And then I actually had someone come in during the promo, and I just so happened to be standing at the front desk, and someone, her very first day at camp, she's standing at the iPad, and she said, who does your guys' social media? And my BA pointed to me, and she goes, you are persistent. And I just laughed, and she said, it's so good. I love watching all the videos, and you don't take no for an answer. I just keep seeing those videos. And I just loved that. Like, to me, it's motivating because she complimented me in multiple ways. One, my ad dollars are working. Two, my content is entertaining her. And three, she walked in the door. She saw what it was and said, yeah, I'll be part of that.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. How, with your content, I know that you are very, very on top of it. Like, what is I know you've told me before that, you really check everything because you said your team takes care of your stories, right? Sounds like you give them a little bit more free reign on that. But I know you're pretty big on like auditing everything that is going on out there. Could you like elaborate a bit on that?
Yes, it's such a fine line of being a micromanager, but also teaching people. And I think frequently when we have team meetings, I talk about the perspective of put yourself in their shoes, put yourself back on your couch. What do you want to see? I also, not every day, but some days when I'm not in the gym early morning, I wake up and I have my coffee and I scroll our stories and I respond to my VAs and I tell them what looks good and what doesn't. And sometimes I'll screen record it and I'll send it to our chat and I'll just explain why. I think the why is so important. And frequently it's something like, if this were you in this video, would you want it posted on social media? Like if they're doing hip thrusts and you're between their legs, nobody wants that. Nobody on social media. You have to pay attention to flattering things. Or a lot of times, the amount of times I've responded to the story with literally just clean the camera. That's it. Just clean the camera. But then it's giving them that's giving them the autonomy to know in the future. And teaching them the angles, teaching them to recognize if you were looking at our stories, what would engage you, what would make you want to come in. A majority, I think all but one of my employees right now started as a member. And so they went through the same process. They saw the ads, they saw the social media. And sometimes it's just reminding them of that and saying, I frequently think this about other areas of my life, like the doctor. Sometimes you go in the doctor and they just assume you know things. I remember thinking this when I was pregnant. It was like they were so annoyed with me when I had questions. And I remember looking at them one day and said, you do this every single day. I have never had a kid before. Can you please remember that? And so I use that analogy with my team sometimes too, of we do this every single day. So it's kind of like that Febreze nose blind commercial of we forget what it's like to not know. It's the same way we train our trainers of when you're giving a description of an exercise, you need to give it in a way that there's someone in camp that might be blind or deaf. And so you're really walking them through and giving them, and then that's the same thing with social media is we need to be showing them something that they're not going to have any assumptions. If this looks like this person is not having a good time, the person at home is going to think, I don't want to go to that gym.
Mm-hmm. You nailed that. Curious, how much do you pay attention to? Clearly, you understand the days of when you have a lot of engagement, when you don't have a lot of engagement, what happens on that? How much are you actually paying attention to, like my likes and all that kind of stuff?
Yes and no. Sometimes it's a little bit of an ego bruise when you don't get a lot of likes because you're like, man, I worked so hard on that reel. But I have found it does not always matter. As long as my followers are constantly growing. At the top, there's a professional dashboard now that says engagement. As long as that's not going down, as long as it's staying steady. And in a promo, I like it to be going up. Other than that, I'm not looking at numbers. Part of it too is, like I said, the followers, because every new follower is a new lead. And that doesn't always translate to likes. So I don't put a lot of stock in that. I think people can get discouraged by it, but I also know that consistency matters more than that. So continuing to post and ignoring that is going to pay off versus, I mean, I can see when people like something more. So it kind of tells me what content I should maybe be focusing on, but it doesn't define my decisions.
So tell me if you agree with this, because this has been my own observation with our own efforts with social media. Likes and stuff are great. Usually, though, what I find is the people that are most likely to like your stuff are people that already know you well. They may be a client, a member, like they're already very, very engaged with you. The person who doesn't necessarily know you yet, or is that first-time person, a follower, maybe they haven't even followed yet, but they've been checking you out. I think what people tend to overlook, and this is why it gets discouraging, like I didn't get a whole bunch of likes. You don't know who's paying attention, right? And a lot of times these new prospects, these people that are just like, you first caught their attention, they're considering things here. They are watching you, but they may not be engaging, meaning like they're not commenting, they're not liking. But we're also looking at our social media as like, this is a lead generation tool. This is a way for us to bring, new business in. Would you agree with that statement? Does that kind of like resonate with you?
Absolutely. Like you said, so my posts that get more engagement are typically the ones targeted towards my members because they already follow me. They already engage with me. It's them. They're liking their friends that they've already made there. They're commenting and engaging with each other. And we have 450 of them that are engaging together, where my content that is targeted at someone who doesn't know us yet, they're watching the video to learn, not watching the video to engage. So I'd say that's absolutely correct.
Yeah. And it could be misleading, right? You're like, well, these are the ones, this is what's getting all the likes. I should do more of this. But wait a minute, you're not speaking to the people who are like potentially going to could be someone that is coming into the door. But if you keep it too much about the members, you're keeping it about this exclusive club that they're not a part of yet, make them feel welcomed to that club.
Right.
With regards to your content, especially when it comes to getting information, like trying to really show people what you're about, what is it that you're trying to show people you're about? Like, what do you have, like certain like pillars, like, or like categories of things that you're trying to get information and content out there on?
Yes and no. I always go back to those things I mentioned at the beginning of what I want the messaging to be. But I ultimately want, for anyone watching who doesn't know what Burn Boot Camp is, things that set us apart. We're personal training in a group setting. I want everyone to know that you're going to come in and our trainers are going to learn your name, learn your needs, and give you what you need while you're surrounded by a supportive group of women. Men are welcome. I will say our membership base, we have maybe 30 men. They are all a spouse or a brother. Very family oriented is our focus. But again, that's because I started this to meet my need, the need that I defined. And that's what it is. In our market, that's what we're made up of in Layton, Utah. So I'd like to show across the board of a woman that looks like me, a woman that looks like a normal woman that you would see walking in a grocery store, being able to drop her child off and get uninterrupted 45 minutes. One thing you guys can't see on the other side of this computer is a glass door and my children going like this because it's fall break. Every mom, no matter how much they love being a mom, does not get uninterrupted 45 minutes anywhere else. So that's something we can do for them that no one else offers. It's about meeting a need is what I want to answer. I want to say, you have a problem, we have a solution. Whatever that may be. You need friends, you need to make friends, we can do that. You need 45 minutes uninterrupted from your children, we can do that. You don't have a background in working out and you don't know how to do your workout, we can do that. So that's the other factor of the messaging, is identifying the problem that we're solving for and making sure it's very clear that we're providing a solution for whoever's watching.
Mm-hmm. So I want to flip this to making it impactful for you viewers. So one of my first questions is, you said a lot of your staff, your team, were like once members. That doesn't mean that they were social media experts or anything like that. And I think staffing is always a challenge for everybody in the gym space, generally speaking. What about like when it comes to getting your team members to like really be like a brand ambassador, right? Like really help you with social media? Like, I'm sure there's people out there listening, they're like, my social media is lacking. And they may look at yours and like, I can't do that. You know, like, what would you say to them in that kind of situation? And yeah, how would you help them to like, at least to start moving in the right direction of it?
I would say really recognize your own weaknesses and recognize other people's strengths and highlight those. Recognize your own strengths and highlight those. One thing I think as entrepreneurs, especially in the beginning, we feel like we have to do it all. And maybe there are times that we do have to do it all, but hopefully you get to a place that you don't have to do it all. And sometimes when you think you're not in a place yet to be able to pay someone to do it, it's really in your best interest to take that leap anyway. I know there are people that social media is not their strong suit, or technology or whatever. Some people are just more reserved and don't feel comfortable being in front of a camera. Find someone who is. Utilize, I guarantee you there's someone on your team that is comfortable being in front of a camera. Go to them and say, I recognize this quality that you have. It is a strength that you can bring to this business. Will you be our go-to camera person? And coach them along the way to do that. Same thing with content, showing them how to do it, finding someone who's good at it and asking them. I know a lot of companies and gyms have kind of pivoted to having a social media manager. I think that a lot of people can do that. A lot of gyms can do that. I know a lot of burn locations do that, but you don't have to. I think you can restructure what you're doing. Most of your employees are probably in a generation that also grew up with social media, and with the right tools can figure it out or be taught. You can find YouTube channels that they can watch. If you provide them the resources and teach them and then ask them to do it, it truly is, when you tell someone else that you see their strength, they want to use that strength. And it's identifying those people and recognizing, you know what, I'm not good on camera. It's my gym, but I'm not comfortable, I'm awkward, or whatever the case may be. So I'm going to have this person do it instead. Really with my team though, they all know how I feel about it. I give them the stats, I give them the numbers. I give them the dollar spend, so they know exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So when I ask them to participate in a video, they just do it. I'm also very persistent with them, and they're all comfortable with me in the sense of like, we do retakes. They do a video and I'm like, that kind of sucked. It's okay. We do it again. And they're willing to do it. Sometimes we have had times when we've had a trainer meeting and we say the last 20 minutes, we're going to do content. So you're going to just stay here and we're going to do content. And I think it's looking at your team and finding what their strengths are and then empowering them to use that and you allowing them to use that.
I want to hit on here the importance of this and the impact it has. So I have some things that I can easily say, but if, in your own opinion, organic social media, how important do you believe it is for a business's success? And how do you think it's actually impacted your business? If you have numbers that you can think of, that is fine. But why do you, more than anything else, I want other people to take from this that like, I should be doing this. I need to prioritize this. And I'd love to share like how you believe it's impacted your business.
I have seen many business owners with the mindset, it appears that the mindset is, well, I pay an ad person for that, so they'll just do it. I think in the beginning, and maybe you can enlighten me on this, I probably was your least favorite client because of how micromanagey I was, and I was calling and I was asking questions, because I feel even though I have an ad team, I have to be engaged with that ad team. And it goes back to what I said about I want my social media and my in-gym experience to match, my messaging to match. I want my ads messaging to match. I don't want conflicting images, conflicting messaging from anywhere. So being involved in it, understanding it, again, you can recognize that it's not your strength, but still educate yourself on it and know the importance of it and the ins and outs of the why. Being able to get content when someone comes into the gym and they see a familiar face because they saw them on social media, the people that walk in the door and know my name because I say my name in my videos, that makes them feel more comfortable. And my mindset, I use this with my team a lot of, we are hosting these people. This is our home. And we are saying, welcome to our home. We're not a hostess at a restaurant. We are a hostess at a home. A hostess at a restaurant goes and sits them down and walks away, and then you're done with them. And that is not us. We want them to feel so comfortable that they'll walk in our home. They'll help themselves to the pantry. They'll feel so comfortable, know us all by name, because we also know them by name. And that for our team starts on social media because we're showing them our faces. We're showing them all of our regular members' faces. So first and foremost, out the gate, you're making them more comfortable in that regard. They also feel, I mean, honestly, think about when you go order food at a restaurant, you're probably more likely going to order something that there's a picture of than not because you know what it looks like. It's the same thing with the gym. It is a psychological comfort level of someone being able to say, yeah, I can go show up there and not be too nervous, or I'm going to be nervous, but it's okay because I know what to expect. That in itself is going to, and it has been proven for us that it is more inclined for people to walk in your door because of that. I told Dave last year we hit kind of a rut and kind of declined, and my GOR and my social media were mirrored. My GOR went down when my social media went down.
Your social media went down, meaning like your followers went down, or you mean like the output, the content that you were putting out there went down?
The content I was putting out, I wasn't putting in as much effort to it. I had taken a step back from it and put my attention somewhere else. And again, as entrepreneurs, we're so busy. If I need to put my attention somewhere else, I have to make sure someone else is going to fulfill that role, because there is a direct correlation with not only leads, definitely leads. I can see 100% a correlation with my leads, but even with my member engagement, because they also feel part of the family when they see themselves on social media in a celebrated light. With my leads specifically, I can see in the promo, for example, this recent promo that we had I wish I had my numbers in front of me for my cost per lead and everything, but there's a time period normally we start slow with my dollar spend. Every time I do the same thing, I'm very conservative and I say, let's start slow and let's see what it looks like. Let's see what's performing well, and then we'll see where we want to shift. And for whatever reason, leads were not picking up this promo the way that I needed them to and wanted them to. And I think from my perspective, we're a team. My ad team is We're a team. We work together. And you don't want me to throw ad dollars away. I don't want me to throw ad dollars away. So what Aaron and I did is we increased the ad spend for 3 days. And we got the same amount of leads, but my cost per lead went up. My actual engagement didn't go up. So very quickly we talked again and we said it obviously didn't work. Let's lower the spend back down because we're getting the same return for lower amount of money. And she was able to pivot really quickly, but we were also able to see what was working and what wasn't working. So the next week we could pivot again. And with that ad working hand in hand with my content, every week, if something wasn't working, she was able to switch it out for something fresh and get that uptick in engagement and see a drive go up in leads. Did that even answer your question?
That. And it did. It was definitely sufficient. And what I would add on to that, I think, again, you were number one in sales in the last promotion, and I think it's important to point out. And you're consistently probably in the top 3 or maybe top 5 with every single promotion that we do. And us being on the back end of this and seeing everybody's ads and managing all of the spend, what I can say too, and this should be a reason why it tells people like it is worth taking some time, some energy, even some spend to invest in this, is because you consistently are in this top 1%, but you don't spend the same amount as everybody else. In fact, I would think on most promotions, you're probably 50% less than the average, which is thousands of dollars, but also equates to thousands of dollars more made. So I can't stress enough. I mean, when you bring up the fact, like when my social media fell off, my revenue, my leads fell off. And when I actually invest in it, it's like it increases your ROI like significantly. Mm-hmm. So I hope if anybody's listening out there and you're considering this kind of stuff, it's like, this is worth figuring out. Even if you're not the expert, follow the expertise of what Bethany is saying here. You're going to have somebody that's likely a millennial on your team, or maybe a Gen Z person that is, lives on their phone, and they can get into this and figure this kind of thing out. I think that's a good spot to probably like wrap this here. I will say, as you know, now
can I will be moving to Vegas. About that?
Hit it.
I want to talk about referrals a little bit.
Yeah, actually, you crush it with referrals. So
this promo actually was 67% referrals over leads for voucher purchases. So with that, one thing that I find with other gym owners is like the need to react and the need to say like, well, my ad spend is not working, so I need to like jump ship. And I want to say that yes, my referrals really carried us this promo, but I think they go hand in hand. Going back to us talking about it being a team, from my perspective, I have a member, Jessie, and Jessie posts on her social media every time we tag her. She reshares the story. She goes to her church. She goes to her mom groups and whatever, and she's talking about Burn Boot Camp all the time. And all these people are seeing her wear shirts and they hear about Burn Boot Camp. Then they're seeing the ad for it, and it's then explaining to them what it is. The two go hand in hand. One is not thriving without the other. The referrals might be phenomenal, but the ads are their wingman. And so they're going hand in hand and working hand in hand. So my other advice would be, when you feel like your ad spend is wasted, don't like pump the brakes so hard that you're doing nothing, but do like what I spoke about earlier with reassessing that maybe it's the content. Maybe we need to switch it out. Maybe we do reduce the dollar amount, but we don't stop it. It's not that one is more important than the other. It's that the two have to complement each other. And there are going to be times when one is higher than the other, but at all times they're working together.
Yeah. And the ads, fuel the fire, right? They help get people into the organic. Ads are out there. Ads are there to help us get people that are completely cold, that don't know us, to know about us. And a percentage of those people, they need a special offer in front of them to actually get them to sign up and go try you out. And then there's others that they're not ready to do something, but now they have joined into your ecosystem and they're watching all of your content and they're warming up and almost becoming basically that organic lead, that referral quality lead, because they've already, now because they've seen so much of your stuff, they understand you, your story, what your business is about, what people are like in there. And they don't necessarily need a special offer to get them in the door, but it does give them a nice little nudge, right? Like for your location, what 80% of the year, what offer are we running?
1 day trial.
1 day trial, right? We're not giving away the farm or anything like that. It's like, just come try us out, right? We're not giving you 3 days free, a week free, anything beyond that. It's like, that's all they need. And I think that is the power of, like, basically you've built a really good mini brand in your own area. It's like, I don't need much to come try this out. Like, you've already convinced me. I understand everything about you. And you've already basically made me into a warm lead. You helped me create the trust that I need to have to feel comfortable to walk through the door. Because to hit on back what you said there is that most of these people, this is a pretty intimidating situation, right? Fitness is not an appealing thing. The result of fitness is an appealing thing. But walking in the door, it's like, I'm really going to go in there and sweat and work hard. Like, this is right. But 80% of the people walking through the door are really not physically active right now. This is a very, very intimidating thing. And so there is a lot of trust that we want to create with this person. They have the know, like, and trust. Like, we want them to feel that way so they can take that final step and feel encouraged to actually walk in those doors. Anything else you'd like to add, Bethany?
I used your questions and I wrote down tips, but up to you.
We could always do a second one. I mean, do you have any, like, we have a few more minutes. So hit me with some of your quick tips. I definitely want to hear these.
One of them is be your own biggest fan. Do it yourself. Make sure, like, every single post has a call to action. If you say comment and you get 0 comments, don't let it bruise your ego. Switch over to your personal account and go comment. Go like. Make sure you're supporting your own things. You practice what you preach. Let's see, what else did I have down? Follow to get followed. I put that on there. We say there's one thing that people frequently say in kind of grassroots marketing, which is like, be the mayor of your own town. Be the mayor of your own social media, in the sense of follow people in the area, follow your followers, comment on their stuff. In your downtime, if you're scrolling on your phone, which we all know every single one of us does, instead of scrolling on your personal phone, get on your gym account, go through your stories and respond to every single one of them. Put a little fire emoji, go through the feed. Every single person you see who has a baby, congratulate them. Every person you see, especially your members, you're engaged, you have things to say to them that are personal, and then all of their followers are going to see that. And that is going to drive your engagement of being involved. Act on your social media as if you are a person, because you are. And you are, the name says Burn Boot Camp, whatever your location may be, but the engagement says person. It is Bethany commenting. And I have 5 people on my team that are logged into our Instagram on their personal phones, and they do that from home.
That is awesome advice. I need to implement that now.
It really makes a difference, because it also, I don't know, I don't read too much into the algorithm and stuff because it's just beyond my capacity, but it also goes to just get your name out there and get your account out there the more and more you do it. So
I think it's actually a completely fantastic idea, because number one, we all do the mindless scrolling, and it's like, why don't I just do a little bit of purposeful scrolling on my feed here? And the thing is, like, that comment, very likely it'll get a like, but there's also going to be many times where they're just going to go click on your profile. If somebody looks at your profile and you are running ads, your ads are going to target that person. Yes. So it's like, you're just getting them right back in the ecosystem by doing that.
Mm-hmm. It also really helps. One thing that I spoke to earlier that we really, really like to practice is we want to know every single one of our members' names. I want to know their dog's name. I want to know when they went on vacation. I want to know everything I can about them. And sometimes that's really hard to do, especially as you grow. it's a lot because we already have so much on our brains. But when I scroll my social media, I'm scrolling through all my followers, which is helping me get to know them. And then I can use that in the gym. Or sometimes people that honestly, a little creepy, but no one has told me it's creepy yet. If I have a follower, as soon as someone follows us, we follow them back. That way we can DM them and it goes into their account versus into their request. We especially hold on to all of those for dinner promos so we can send them a direct message and invite them in. But as soon as we follow them, also, like, I recognize their name. As soon as they walk in the gym and I know them by name, they're like, whoa, how do you already know my name? Well, because I saw your picture attached with your name already. And so it's just help. Every bit of it is just laying the groundwork for what we want to do when they get there anyway. And for us, I think it works because it's genuine. I want to see you on social media to put a name with the face. And so when you come in, I know these things about you so I can cater to you and provide you with the service that we want to give you.
I think that's spot on. I mean, what I will say is I've been to many gyms, many franchise gyms. And first off, what I will say is Burn Boot Camp as a brand has by far the best experience that I've ever come across in any gym. It's high fives everywhere. People are like, you're going to make friends very, very quickly. And so I think that is something you're taking it to the next level. As you said, it doesn't start at the car door. It starts from the couch. It starts from your social media. It's like, that is, I think in so many situations, like when somebody walks in the door and they've had this kind of experience, it's almost, they're getting something that they didn't realize that they needed or wanted.
For sure.
Give us some more tips, Bethany. You're dropping some fire over here. I'm going to be implementing some of this. Because I have the mindless scrolling. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm going to get on the business page and go do some stuff now.
The next thing I wrote was be less perfect and less self-critical. One thing to do all over again. I'm actually in the process of opening my second location. And when I opened the first location, I can tell you I felt stupid getting on social media and showing them construction to people who didn't. There wasn't a burn boot camp in our area. So in my mind, I was like, I look so stupid showing them something that they don't know what it is. I felt like I had to have something to show first. And that is one of my biggest regrets, is that I did not get more engaged on social media out the gate. Again, go back to that mindset of being a person, of being, you're showing them your life. You're showing them the life of the gym. And we now have members that were founding members that will frequently comment and say, I remember when you were posting and it was just concrete in here. It was, and that, I mean, we got lifetime members from that. And looking back, I didn't do it enough because I was so paranoid that I wasn't showing a perfect product. And so I would say, let that go, be with balance. Cause I already told you guys a little bit how I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, that you want it to look nice. You want it to look clean. You want it to look professional, but you also want it to look genuine and raw. And so figuring out the balance between that and letting your guard down a little bit, be vulnerable, because it's opening the door for them to say, I can be vulnerable too, which is what you want. And then the last thing I have that I wrote down was make it personal. That is what speaks volumes to people, is being relatable. Don't be afraid to ask your members for things. One of my favorite things that we do is we utilize giveaways a lot, and I would encourage you to be okay giving a month for free or something, and using that in your advantage to get the comments and get the engagement. So one thing I do with my giveaways is, in order to enter in the comments, answer, what does burn mean to you? Share your burn journey or something like that. Well, now I have 200 comments of content that I screenshot their comment. I put it on a video of them working out, and I have a testimonial to post. Getting reviews. But I also, one of my favorite videos we did during this last promo is I walked up to members I held the camera up. Before I held the camera up, I said, do you mind being on camera? Can I ask you a few questions? They said yes. And I held it up and I said, how long have you been at Burn? What brought you into Burn? What's your favorite thing about Burn? And the answers you get will do two things. They will give you content for you to post that is heartfelt, genuine, and will work. And it will validate what you're doing. And you need to hear that. These members are willing to tell you. All you got to do is ask them.
Mm-hmm. Would you mind sharing, on average, what do you find is the average length of time that a member like stays with you? And I know every market's a little different. I'm not sure if your market, there's a lot of, I know if you're in a military town, it's going to be affected by that. But what do you typically find is like the retention for a member with you?
Honestly, that is my biggest pain point in my business is my retention. I would say 12 months is average.
You know, the fitness average, the average for the industry is like 8 months. So it's not like you're doing bad.
It's
but
still,
of course you want it to be better.
You could, again, though, I feel like I'll circle it back to the importance of the social media. I feel is it also kind of gauges the pulse on the people who are engaged on social media, the people that I see in our stories all the time because they're in camp every day. They're the ones that are staying. They're the ones that are staying past the 12 months, past the 18 months that have been here since the day we opened. And they do feel like family. They do feel like they saw us when we didn't look perfect and there were holes in the walls, and they love that. They love that they're part of that. So I think even in itself, that's part of the longevity of a member is there is a correlation between the two. And it can be a pulse on whether a person is bought in or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, from everything that I've gathered, it's just like your membership base has just been so, by being so raw and authentic from especially from the earliest times where you weren't as polished as you are now. You know, Burn, as a franchise, people can look at it as like, this is a corporate place, you know, and not realize that this is truly a local business, right? And this is like, there's actually people behind this. It's not Walmart or something like that. Like there's real people that really care here, and you're allowing them to share in that journey. And legitimately, as you say, it's like basically become part of your family. Hence why they are here for years and years until they maybe move or something like that. But they'll probably come back and visit, which, yeah, I think it's a testament to what you've been doing. Any other final tips for us, Bethany?
I don't think so. I mean, what you just said kind of made me think another thing that I learned kind of the hard way in the beginning when things are really, really hard. Just my personality. I don't like being vulnerable. I don't like feeling weak. And I felt like sometimes showing too much of me on the business social media should be a no-no. And I always had to be professional. I always had to be, and you do, like, don't get me wrong. You have to present yourself in that way. But also letting the members know, like you said, I'm a person that opened this gym, that separated my family for 6 months to open this gym, that kept my 3-year-old up till 10 o'clock at night, putting the floor together. The raw side of it, that the reason, my why, sharing my postpartum story, sharing my family, and that my family makes sacrifices to make this mission come alive, is confirming to them that the reason I'm doing this, yes, it's a business, and yes, I want to be successful, and yes, I want to be profitable, but at the end of the day, I set out to change women's lives, and I'm passionate about that. And my family knows that enough that they support me. And to see that raw, genuine side of it also offers them comfort. I want to go back to that word you used earlier, trust. They know they can trust me. If they don't know they can trust me, I'm heartbroken, because my ultimate goal is that this place is the safest place in their life. A lot of times I talk to my team too about, as a mom, or really as a person, when you get home, if I go get a haircut, if I get home, my kids aren't telling me, hey, Mom, I noticed your haircut. My husband didn't notice my haircut. When I walk into Burn, hey, Bethany, I like your haircut. And And that's what we should be for them. It is. I mean, we are giving them something in their life that we all need. And it is at the core our culture of community.
Important. You are very mission driven. And that started before this gym, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's also something that it is probably very natural for you to make sure that your team is aware of, like who you're trying to impact, your why, and making your community know that. So I think, especially like based off of the history, like you were looking to really do something with that. So maybe it comes a little bit more natural to you. Number one, how important do you think that is for other owners to do? And if they feel that resistance to really, especially like within the franchise that you're in, I believe many of the owners have a similar story in some way. They will remember this business, one of the gyms they went to moved them in some way that to impact, like to help them do that as well. How important is that, getting that out there to your team, to your members? And if somebody is facing that internal resistance, what would you say to them?
I would say it's time for self-reflection and to really identify your why. There's a quote. When I say there's a quote, I think it's something I just say.
It's quoted by Bethany.
I'm trying to think of what it is exactly, because I say it to my team a lot when we get to this point of like, we get burnout. It's exhausting because it's also emotionally taxing because we are filling that void for people as well. So there's a lot of layers that go into that. But it's something along the lines of when the why is powerful, the how is easy. And it's just so true, because if you go back to every decision you make of your why, then it drowns out the challenges. It makes the challenges worth it. It helps you stay laser focused. I think too, what I find in Burn Boot Camp is Burn Boot Camp has changed all of our lives in some way. That's why we became burn owners. All of us are passionate. You have to find the balance between passionate and business owner. You need your why, but you also need your discipline. You have to pay the bills. You have to realize that you have to run it like a business, and your why can be your motivation. But at some point, I'm actually reading Traction again right now, and there was a line that I highlighted and I showed my members: nothing can happen until you sell something. And you'll run into these challenges of people feeling like it's about the money. It's a business. You're trying, and trying to kind of dull your mission. And two things can be true at once. I want to be profitable and I want to change lives. And I think that's why I own a Burn Boot Camp, and why I'm willing to open another Burn Boot Camp is because it's allowing me to do both of those things. And you have to, kind of what I said earlier about the referrals and the leads, it's the same thing. The two work hand in hand. The more profitable I am, the more lives I'm changing. And that feels good. And it's okay. That's okay. That I have turned my mission into a career and pay my bills with it.
I absolutely love it. I could end it right here, but you hit on something that I just really want to ask a question on here. And it might be a long answer, it might be a short answer. You're opening a second location. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do differently this time that you maybe wish you knew the first time?
I learned so much. I operated out of fear a lot. And I think that's very natural for human. That is human nature. We react out of fear. When someone is acting negatively, it's because they're afraid of something else that's going to happen. Patience with myself. Everything I said on this call about showing more earlier on will happen. Utilizing my current member base to help establish a new member base. My grand opening strategy is going to be very different than my first time around. I don't know what specifics to necessarily go into, but I do know It's a very different scenario as well, though, because there was not a burn boot camp around us. I didn't have an example to show people. A majority of my employees had never stepped foot in a burn boot camp, which was a huge hurdle for us. So now I have this place, and I've already talked to my current team about it. Anyone who works at the new location is required to train at the current location, because I have, which sometimes my husband and my team gives me a really hard time for having incredibly high standards. But I have incredibly high standards, which means my entire team does, my entire location does. And now that we've established that, in the beginning, we didn't know, like, I knew what I wanted the standards to be, but we didn't know how to get there yet. And I spoke to earlier, just persistence and like grit is what I did. It was just keep going. And now I have a little insight into strategy and allowing the culture to be the testimony.
How incredibly high standards, how now your team has those standards. How have you communicated those standards, and how have you, it's not something that you just do once, right? What has been your approach to, I guess you'd say, reinforcing those standards and making sure that they're always like top of mind, that the team doesn't slip?
Team slips. Say that first.
But Bethany doesn't slip. No.
Feedback culture, which is a burn boot camp thing. I can't take sole credit for that. It's Burn Boot Camp headquarters does give us tools, and it's up to us if we want to use them or not. But I opened at a time when they were implementing the book traction and what we call the feedback loop. And because we opened at that time, our team is ingrained in doing it. It is expected for every single person on our team to feedback every other person on our team, including me. So everyone knows that they're responsible for holding each other accountable. We talk about all the time, my team is very motivated to be good. And honestly, sometimes that right now we have kind of struggled. I had this like epiphany. I was talking to another burn owner, and I said, you know what really sucks is we got so damn good. Now when we make a mistake, everyone is mad at us. And it's true, because we worked so hard to get to the level we wanted to be. And then life happened, and my lead trainer had a baby, and my other lead trainer got hurt. And we had a flux of new trainers come in, and they then had to learn, and we kind of had to start over with them learning the standard. They were good. They were very good. They were better than we were when we started. But the members had gotten so used to what we were doing that they were so critical of it because it wasn't to the standard yet. And so part of it was like, okay, this is a really good problem to have. But the other part was we got to get back to the standard really quick. So that's it, is that we keep that very transparent, and that what I just told you, I have said to the team. They know, the new trainers know that. But they're also inspired to get to that point because their experience was those other trainers.
All right, one more question. Because you were talking about your experience opening the first location and going into the second location, and you said you operated a bit more from fear, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you believe you should be operating from, and how do you try to maintain that mentally?
So mentally, this is hard, and there's no perfect answer. I think everyone needs to work on self-awareness in the sense of giving yourself a mental check. In the beginning, it is, can I pay my bills? I feel like I'm failing. I'm not doing as good as the gym across the country who's getting all these awards. And you're just, for me, I was just so self-critical and hard on myself. Where I also felt like I had to do it all because I wasn't willing to spend the money for someone else to help me because I didn't feel like I could. And now in hindsight, I need to allow other people to help me. I had a team of people who were willing to help me. And actually, one of my trainers, who is actually one of my absolute closest friends, we met total fluke I bought a kitchen table from her brother, and she became my trainer. She showed up and helped me build the floating floor and helped me get started. And through the last 3 years, she's gotten comfortable giving me feedback. And she told me one time, she said, I find it very discouraging that you're telling us all the time to take initiative, that you would like us to help you take things off your plate. But then when I didn't do it the way you would have done it. And so it's not good enough. And I'm like, this is my husband talking to me again. But really, it was so enlightening to me that I'm in a healthier place now to say, one, if I want it done a very specific way, I have to take the time to teach them first. Two, I need to have a perspective of, is there another way it can be done and still be good? And the answer is yes to that. 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes to that. Mm-hmm. And if you have the right team who has the right why, it might not be done the way I would do it if it was just me, but I can't clone myself. And so I have to decide, do I trust that person or do I not trust that person? If I don't trust that person, why are they here? And yeah.
All right. I got another question.
That's all right.
I keep on saying like one more question. So on top of that, with like standards, I'm assuming you have, because you just mentioned right there, why is this person here? How quickly are you to act on that once you recognize that?
Not quickly. I think that too, it goes back to people operating out of fear. You mentioned earlier in the call that especially in the fitness industry, staffing is difficult. Turnover is high. Our hours are weird. It's physically demanding. You name it. There's a reason why staffing is difficult. And a lot of times you don't want to lose someone because you haven't found someone to replace them yet. And you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and you're reacting out of fear. You're reacting out of the fear of the unknown, of what's going to happen if I lose this person and I don't have enough team. And I think for me, it's ultimately come down to learning the hard way that I truly have to go back to that question of trust. And if I can't trust this person, I cannot allow them to be here. If I can trust this person and they're not up to my standard yet, then we can figure this out. We can give it a little more time. We can work on progress, maybe a different position. Maybe they need more training, more feedback. But the deal breaker for me is going to be trust. And from all regards, is that person being honest with me? Can I trust that person to deliver what I want my clientele to see? If I don't go into the gym or if I go on vacation, can I trust that person to do things the way they would do them if I was in the gym? And if the answer is no, then they got to go.
As quickly as you can possibly do it.
As quickly as you can possibly do it. Again, I'll reference, I am reading Traction again, and they reference the 36 hours of hard. And it feels like it's going to be really hard. But the longer you wait to do it is how hard it's going to be. But as soon as you do it, you're going to have about 36 hours of hard, and then you're going to move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like all things, you adjust and it becomes the norm.
Right.
All right. This is my ending question. So there's no more after these. So, you finished number 1 in sales in the last promotion. You're a top performing gym. You've already mentioned your team. It's like, you're so good that if you make one mistake, people hold you accountable to that. So there's a lot of things that you've done exceptionally well. What I want to hit on here, there's probably going to be owners that are in the same franchise as you. There's going to be people that have nothing to do with Burn Boot Camp that are going to see this. And the one thing I want to address is the comparison game, right? Because many people might look at this and be like, I can't do anything this woman's talking about. What would you say to them to give them the word of encouragement?
I'm so glad you asked that. Talk about it at Burn Boot Camp all the time. It's you versus you. The comparison game is so, so hard, especially with social media. I grew up in a generation that's all we were ever taught to do was compare. I think healthy competition is great. It's motivating for me, and so I think use it, but I also think everyone needs to recognize how different we are, and my market is going to be different. My team is going to be different. My strengths are going to be different. My weaknesses are going to be different. Things that you might excel at, I really struggle with. And there's beauty in that. I think it goes back to what I think the biggest takeaway should be is identifying your strengths and your team's strengths and whoever you have, using your resources and highlighting the strengths to make them cohesive and successful versus trying to make yourself good at something that you're never going to be good at. And it's okay to accept that. That's not failure because you're going to be great at other things. It's accepting this is not where I excel. And I think giving ourselves grace in that and saying one of my favorite things, I think Mel Robbins actually is the one who said it, changed my whole life perspective. And it's so tiny of a thing. I was raised religious and I was always told envy is bad. Jealousy is bad. Green with envy, the big green monster, all the negative things. And I heard Mel Robbins say, jealousy is not bad. Jealousy is showing you what you want and don't have yet. It should be used as a motivator. And it really just stuck with me that if I am jealous of someone else, if I'm comparing myself to someone else, another location, then that is my motivation, that's what I want to aspire to be like. That person is an inspiration for me. I don't want them to lose. I just want to also win. And the comparison will be there because I'm comparing where I am now to where I want to be. But it's my comparison to my now versus my future, not my now versus them.
That's a powerful reframe. I love that. One quick question here. It sounds like you definitely read a decent bit or a fair bit. Fair. What book would you say that, like, business owners, I would suggest you read this? Is there one that just pops up to mind? I mean, you mentioned Traction a few times. Let's take that one off the table, unless you're like, okay, that is the gold standard.
No, I'm just having my leadership team read it right now, so I'm reading it along with them and highlighting is why. I'm actually doing a course with Scott Miller right now. He's a leadership expert and author, and he recommends multipliers. And I've started it, but I haven't finished it. But he says it is the absolute number one book he would recommend for a business owner. So if you guys read it, I'm going to read it as well. I would say more so, again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but back to the playing on your strengths. Don't choose a book that's going to necessarily make you feel forced to be someone you're not. Find your struggle, and if it's leadership and directness, like, that's where you want to focus on. Mel Robbins, we've done as a gym together, and she's very motivating, very with your, what's the word I'm looking for? Self-confidence. If that's where you're lacking, sometimes that's the biggest thing you need. And I think, to me, that has been a differentiator, going back to what you said about the different opening a second location. I have gained confidence, which sounds so cliche because that's what our last promo was confidence takes reps. But it's true. I have found, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I have found my confidence because I've identified my strengths. And I would say whatever book you're reading, take that back to the comparison thing of, is this something that can be a strength of mine? If it can't, how do I identify it in another person? If it can, how do I amplify it in myself?
I love it. I think this is a perfect spot to end things after pushing it on, but I think this has been awesome. This is actually the longest podcast I've done, but it's been so value packed from multiple aspects that I personally appreciated this as well. And I've taken things away from this. So Bethany, thank you for jumping on today. And I know you're also a very willing to help person. If anybody wanted to reach out to you, had any questions, how could they get a hold of you?
Absolutely. Can I give my phone number out?
I wouldn't put it on the internet. I mean,
that's the best way to reach me.
if you're okay with it, feel free to put it out there.
Ooh, email me. How about you email me?
Let's do email. What's your email address?
Yes, Bethany.McVay@burnbootcamp.com.
It just shows how willing she is to help. You can give it out to the whole internet, but we'll also put it in the notes. You'll see it under the YouTube description as well. Bethany, again, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me.
Take care.